Well, did you miss them? State of Play returns on First, and we welcome back Stephanie Hansen from the law firm of Young, Conaway, Stargett, and Taylor, and Charlie Copeland, president of Associates International, a graphics and printing company. And guys, before we get into Wilmington and Delaware's future with some new leaders in place, let's dig into Barley Mill a little bit. Would you like to explain the sort of renewed alliance between Dennis Williams and Tom Gordon when it comes to this project? They both seem to be on the same page. Is that a good thing?
Well, I think it makes for great copy right now. Anytime you've got a new administration that comes in, like in this case the Gordon administration, they're going to want to distance themselves from the policies of the past. And so I think that they've done that pretty well at this point. The difficulty is when, you know, they're kind of throwing themselves into the whole legal morass at this point. I mean, it's one thing to stand up and say, as a policy, we want to distance ourselves from what was done in the past. We don't like the way it was done, as opposed to now jumping into a court case at the 11th hour and saying we want to change our policy this way by reinterpreting what the law was back then. So. I think it's a problem right now. I think there are better ways to show county-city solidarity. Right now, it's just created a lot of confusion. It's created a lot of copy and news stories, though. That's why we're sitting here talking about it today. So, you know, I guess for many folks, particularly in politics, you know, good press is even bad press is good press. So,
sure.
I can see where Dennis Williams would want to stop it. Putting a large retail facility, one as large as the Christiana Mall, right there, right outside the city of Wilmington, could wreak havoc with everything that's been done on the riverfront, everything that's done in the Ship's Tavern. They don't have to pay city wage tax out there. They'll have free parking. It'll be perceived as being safer. I was surprised that the city didn't come out, frankly, earlier back in the day and say, hey, stop this. Although if you check the Stoltz donations to various Democratic politicians in the state of Delaware, one might argue as to why they were not as loud in their opposition. But so Dennis Williams doesn't surprise me at all. But I think Stephanie's right on sort of the county perspective. It's a done deal. It's in court. You can say, oh, you know, there's nothing we could do, and so I made some promises to a group of folks, and while I would like to help them, it's now in the courts, and that's the judicial branch, and the last time I looked, we have 3 branches of government, and that one isn't mine. So I think that it was a little odd for the county to put a non-legal letter out there saying, well, you know, we really don't think we did the right thing before.
And the problem is, too, I mean, we're talking about the city-county alliance, but there's a person that's the head of county council right now, which is Chris Bullock, that I think has got to be in a very uncomfortable position right now. Because essentially what the lawsuit did, the county defendants, there's more than one county defendant. It's not like it was filed against the county. The lawsuit by the citizens group was filed against county council and filed against the county administration, let's say, the county land use department and whatnot. Well, county council is now being headed by Chris Bullock, and the county administration is Tom Gordon. But there was one lawyer representing both of those entities. There was one lawyer representing county council and Chris Bullock, and one lawyer representing the county administration. And that one lawyer has been filing briefs on behalf of both of them. So we get right to the eve of court where the same lawyer who now has a discussion with, you know, Tom and the lawyer have a discussion, but they don't really go back to Reverend Bullock or to county council and say, oh, by the way, we're getting ready to file this that completely undoes all the stuff that we said back there. He's got to be feeling really uncomfortable about this. So yeah, Dennis Williams and Tom Gordon are showing solidarity. What are you hearing from Reverend Bullock? I mean, he's just as city as Dennis Williams is, but he's kind of gotten thrown under the bus, I think.
And it all leads to sort of confusion in the court, and I think we saw earlier this week kind of a slapdown of sort of that way of handling it.
Yeah, well, who's the attorney representing? That's the question. That was the first question out of the judge's mouth, and it's a very valid question. Who are you representing? You were representing both of us, county council and the administration. Are you still representing county council? Because they said they have no idea what you just did. So who are you representing?
Well, I think, and that always leads to that I can understand why county council said, okay, we'll just use the county attorney, but they are different branches of the government. And if you're the legislative branch and the council is the legislative branch, they need to have somebody that's looking after the legislative branch's interests and not. And again, I understand ostensibly why they did it, but even so, you spend a few $1,000s more to have separate counsel and write different, or separate legal counsel and write different. It would have made things a lot cleaner from the get-go. And that's not just county council. That's a problem that happens all sorts of places. But
and you can't get the substantive issue. See, that's the thing. It throws a roadblock now into actually getting to the substantive issue, which should you have traffic impact studies before you do a rezoning? That's really the substantive policy issue. The legal question is, was a traffic impact study required back then when county council voted? That's a legal question. The law is what it is and is what it was back then. That's kind of the legal question. But before anybody can even get to that, now it is whose attorney is able to stand up here and give an argument? Because I
It's
think
bogged down in procedure.
it's bogged down totally. I think what's going to happen is, this is my prediction, is I think that the attorney that had previously represented both county council and the administration is going to have to recuse himself from representing either of them. Right. And both sides are now going to have to get separate counsel, which is going to cause a little bit more, significant more time delay, significant more expense to actually get to the heart of the issue, which is, was the law properly interpreted back then? And if the administration doesn't like, the current administration doesn't like what the judge says, then they can go back and change the law. But you can't change the law. You can't make a policy decision and change the law by policy when the question is in court right now.
Not the last time. I'm sure we'll be discussing this on State of Play. So the delay allows us to bring it up another day. And let's move on. So with the talk about the new administrations, the Williams administration, the Gordon administration, even Governor Markell's second term, Wilmington's new mayor wants a dialogue with city neighborhoods. Tom Gordon's sort of first act was to reduce the distance smokers have to go before taking a smoking break. And Governor Markell's getting ready to take office, of course, with really a huge voter mandate. What's sort of the biggest issues in transition here as we're coming into new terms, new leaders?
Well, I think the biggest issue for the county right now is getting out from underneath the barley mill morass that they have walked into. That's going to be front page for quite some time. For the city, clearly it's crime. I would hope that the county can kind of set aside or get some calmness to barley mill and then go back and look at crime. The whole thing about reducing being able to smoke on county ground, that I think that was probably just a misstep of a new CAO. And not quite understanding that it's not as free and easy as it used to be. Now you're in the public life and your decisions really impact a lot of people and they're subject to a scrutiny that you probably didn't anticipate. I think that's what all that was about. And I think that hopefully all that has been put behind them now, although I don't know for sure, but I think that's what that was about.
I think that there are three issues that they're all going to face, the state, the county, and the city. And those are money, and the third one is money. And you look at the city that's running somewhere between $3 to $5 million operating deficits. They've had a reserve that they've been able to use back in the mid 2000s. They were able to get an increase in the taxes to hotels to help fill a little hole. That's going to be hard to find. I don't see anybody going down to Dover saying, could we raise the taxes on hotels in the city of Wilmington? Could we raise these fees? Could we get a little bit more out of this fund or whatever to help us solve our budget crisis here in the city of Wilmington? Similarly, the county's budget was based largely off of real estate transfer taxes, and despite the fact that the real estate market, depending on where you're looking at it, has stabilized, there's just not that transactional volume that you're going to be able to take that 3% of every time to generate additional revenues, and so you're still running $10 million operating deficit, something like that they've been using, again, their reserves to fill. The last time Tom Gordon was executive, he was able to give money away right, left, and center because he had so much money pouring in. That situation is different. And then lastly, you look at the state, and even the state is now saying, gee, maybe we can't let the sunset kick in for the increased taxes that we put on businesses and individuals in the state of Delaware, because we're going to need that money. And you even see a democratically controlled House and Senate saying, no, we're not giving cabinet secretaries any more money because you're telling us we don't have any money to pay anybody else. So they're all on the same team, and they're already fighting about what really is a few $100,000 in a $3.5 billion budget because of money, and it's the beginning of the year. So it's going to be a tough year.
All right, will be fun to watch, and we'll follow it all here on State of Play on First. Stephanie Hansen and Charlie Copeland, as always, thank you very much.